The day that we've all been waiting for is finally here. It's Christmas in April, the first day of the NFL draft, and we're here to get you ready for it on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for Thursday, April 25th, 2024.
Just win. Just win. Just win. Just win.
The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you round and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won. And won. And won. And won. And won.
And welcome here, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast to get the latest edition of the show as soon as it becomes available. As always, if you're checking us out on YouTube, we definitely appreciate that. As I tell you each and every day, the show continues to grow in a major way, and that's because of you and your dedication to the show, and we thank you for that. And we also thank my man Ari. Does a great job each and every day making sure we're on YouTube, we're looking good, and we're sounding good. So shout out to you, Ari. Shout out to him. You got to hit him up on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line 707-654-4693. No calls or texts coming up on today's show. Just a lot of sound that I was able to collect from the Play 60 event going on at the Corner Ballpark here in downtown Detroit on Wednesday, and also some of the NFL draft analysts that I was able to talk to. Actually, they were all at the same event, but got a lot of good sound that I want to get to. So I want to make sure that we do that here on today's show. As a matter of fact, segment number 3, you'll hear from cornerback Terrion Arnold from Alabama and wide receiver Rome Odunze out of Washington. That's coming up in segment number 3. Just a little media scrum. So it's a lot of us just peppering them with questions and, just an opportunity to catch up with these guys and, talk to them one more time before they actually become professionals. Segment number 2, one of the draft analysts that was on site as well was Joel Klatt. He was there with Charles Davis and Daniel Jeremiah. I'll let you hear the Joel Klatt conversation that we had, talked about Michael Penix. I got to ask him about how Michael Penix fits in with the Raiders, if in fact they do select him at 13 or wherever they decide to pick him. So you'll hear from Joel Klatt from NFL Network coming up in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, all about the Raiders, all about the quarterback position, and you'll hear from potential QB1 if the Raiders can find a way to go get him. That would be Jayden Daniels. So we'll jump right into that after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is Monopoly Go. And I've admitted it many times. You know me as well. I've got a very big competitive side, and it's a big fan of Monopoly Go. The mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. Join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. So there's a lot of reports that were surfacing on Wednesday, either here from Detroit or just out nationally. A lot of conversation going on about the Raiders, and it's been a lot of conversation going on about the Silver and Black for a couple of weeks. So off top, I saw a tweet from Tashawn Reed from The Athletic. I actually had him on my radio show on Wednesday afternoon to talk about not only the tweet, but just what he thinks the Raiders are going to do today in round 1. But the tweet said the Raiders are unlikely to trade up in the first round per league sources. Given GM Tom Telesco has never traded down in any round, the sense is Las Vegas stays put and picks at number 13. That was from Tashawn Reed on Twitter. And look, when he says per league sources, that's somebody with some real good knowledge of the situation, whether that's somebody in the Raiders organization, somebody that, is talking to somebody in the organization. Like, he's not just going to throw that out there. 9 times out of 10, when you see a guy like Tashawn or Vic Tafur or Vinny Bonsignore or someone like that, Paul Gutierrez, those guys, when they put per league sources, normally it's not league, it's usually team sources. So that kind of let me know where the Raiders were at that point when I saw that tweet. But I guess we've kind of already known that for the longest, that they probably weren't going to be able to make a move to get up to number 2. But until it's actually set in stone, we just don't know. Then later on Wednesday, Ian Rappaport from NFL Network was on set here in Detroit where the NFL draft is going to be, and was being asked about the Raiders and if they have an opportunity to get from 13 up, trade up to go get a top 5 quarterback. Here's what Rap Sheet had to say about that.
First of all, I'm not so sure that 13 is going to be out of the range of the top 5 quarterbacks. There are certainly scenarios where either J.J. McCarthy or Michael Penix, or maybe even both, are there at 13, depending on what happens. So certainly if you're the Las Vegas Raiders, the possibility of sitting there taking the 5th quarterback, not out of the realm of possibility there. I know they made some calls. I know they've called up to 2. I know they've called up to 3. Tom, when you look at the track record for Tom Telesco, the general manager, I'd say it's a little bit different than the ultra super aggressive thought process of Antonio Pierce as head coach. Telesco has rarely traded up. He's never going to give up the farm to do it. So I have a hard time seeing the Raiders go all the way up to 2 or 3 for a quarterback, maybe a small jump would make more sense for them.
So there you go. Rap Sheet's kind of aligned with what Tashawn Reed said right there, that, they don't really have to trade to get it to a top 5 quarterback. A top 5 quarterback could come to them, whether that's, Bo Nix, whether that's, even J.J. McCarthy might slide to him at 13. And, of course, Michael Penix, the guy that we talked about quite a bit. So, those are kind of 2 reports that are in line with each other as far as what the Raiders could be doing later on this afternoon or this evening. Kyle Brandt from Good Morning Football, of course, he rolls with Peter Schrager, and Good Morning Football is on a little bit of a hiatus right now as they're moving their facilities and their studios to L.A. They'll be back sooner rather than later, but he took to Twitter and had put a video out about who he thinks will have the most intriguing draft and why. I thought this was pretty interesting. Check it out.
Who will have the most intriguing draft 2024? I don't have a whiteboard, but I have an awesome jacket, and I think it's these guys, the Raiders. They have pick number 13, but I do not think they will stay there. I think they will move up, and I think they will draft a quarterback. Look at their room. I love Gardner Minshew. You love Gardner Minshew. We all love Gardner Minshew. I love Aiden O'Connell. Aiden O'Connell went to my high school. Rex and Rob Bryan, Jalen Brunson, and Aiden O'Connell. But I think there's going to be a new quarterback going to that quarterback room. They have a bold head coach. They have a new GM in town, and they have a lot of picks. The Raiders pick in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and twice in the 7th round. I think they're moving up in the 1st round. I also think they have kind of a bold mentality of let's catch the Chiefs. We already beat them last year. Let's see if we can do something crazy this year and take the whole damn thing. Got to have a quarterback, and I think they'll get one. The Raiders. Be really fun. That's my team. Draft week, just throwing stuff against the wall. See you in Detroit.
So there you go. Kyle Brandt thinks that the Raiders are moving up from 13. And, he's on his way to Detroit. That's what he said in the end of the video. So he'll be here on site. And the reason why that catches my attention is because Peter Schrager is tied in really well with a lot of different teams, a lot of different analysts, a lot of insiders. And so usually the information that Schrager gets is really good information as well. So as you can tell, the reports are all over the place. That's why I'm so excited about today, because at some point we'll know exactly what happens. We'll know what they do, what they don't do, who they grab and who they don't grab, right? So that's going to be a lot of fun. But of course, the belle of the ball, the prize would be for the Raiders to find a way to go get quarterback 1, which is Jayden Daniels. Well, he was at that NFL play event at the Corner Ballpark in downtown Detroit, as the other 12 prospects were as well, and the NFL draft analysts were there as well. So he's getting peppered off top by questions from the Washington media. And of course, they've got a lot of questions for him, but I think you'll enjoy this conversation with Jayden Daniels at the NFL Play 60 event on Wednesday.
How much time did you spend with Washington coaches, GM, that whole staff, compared to the other visits that you were on? How comparable was it?
I spent quite some time with them. Obviously just like Zoom meetings and prior combine, stuff like that. So when I got up there, I spent some time with them, but I had other places to go, so I had to go catch a flight. So, but overall, it was just a good visit.
What do you know about Cliff Kingsbury and, obviously, kind of an air raid system? How would that work with your game, and how would that, bring out the best in you if you think it might?
I mean, obviously his track record with, mobile quarterbacks. Obviously he has Kyler, Pat Mahomes, Johnny Manziel in college, people like that. So his track record speaks for itself. But I've been familiar with Cliff because he was at Arizona State. So it's pretty much there. I've been familiar with him since then.
Did you have any conversations while you were there?
No, we didn't meet, but I just knew Cliff.
Gotcha.
Did you talk to Kyler Murray or Patrick or anybody about Cliff?
Nah, I ain't talked to him about Cliff. If I talk to him, it's kind of about, what I'm getting ready to enter. So
I asked Caleb this, but, a lot of times we look back on a draft and sort of define it by how the quarterbacks do. There's a bunch of good quarterbacks in this draft. Knowing what you know about this group of quarterbacks, how do you think this class will be looked upon, 10 years from now?
I think we have a chance. We have a chance to be real good. Obviously, a lot of special talent in this class, so we have a chance.
Jayden, you're a transfer quarterback, a lot like the guy who came before you at LSU with Joe Burrow. Have you reached out to him at all to kind of get his advice for this process?
I mean, me and Joe talk here and there, so obviously it's like the same thing, just enjoy it. Once your name called, nothing matters what you did in college. So it's a clean slate. You got to go and put in the work.
There's been a lot of conversations about your, guy that recruited you, Antonio Pierce in Vegas, and if the Raiders can find a way to get there, what would that be like for you?
It'll be good. I mean, anywhere I go, it'll be a blessing. But AP, I've been on AP since I was a teenager. So obviously, just our relationship, like off the field, that meant a lot. But, I'm blessed. We'll see what happens, but I'm blessed to go wherever I get called.
He said he recruited you and said that you were going to win the Heisman Trophy, just like it was going to be at Arizona State and end up at LSU. Was that kind of surreal?
It was surreal. I mean, probably surreal for all of them that recruited me. They seen that I had the talent and the ability to be able to do it. Just I thought I was going to do Arizona State too, but obviously God has other plans.
You expect to be the number 2 pick at this point?
I don't know what to expect. I expect to hear my name called at some point, so I don't know. There's a lot of great options at number 2, so you can't go wrong.
You get why there's all this questioning, after the visit at Top Golf, why people are more curious about you and whether you want to be there and that fit and everything?
I guess so. I'm just I'm a guy that don't really talk a lot, so obviously, you guys are doing your job, trying to ask questions, but like I said, everything's good. I'm just happy to go wherever I'm going.
What's it been like working with Ron and them throughout this process, especially with some of the noise?
Say that one more time.
I said, what's it been like working with Ron and them throughout this process, and especially with the noise that's been happening?
My agent?
Yeah.
No, it's been great. That's my dude, man. I picked him. Obviously, that's my agent. So it's been great working with them, be able to build this team together. And, wherever tomorrow takes us, we're gonna be there and we're gonna be full force.
You can only pick one: Brian Thomas or Malik Nabers.
I plead the 5th, man.
What has this whole process been like for you? From obviously finishing and winning the Heisman Trophy, going to the Combine. Now you're here and you're playing with the kids the day before you're going to get drafted.
It's been crazy. Traveling everywhere, being blessed enough to get some trophies, working out, pro day, top 30 visits. Now we're here. So it's been a long process, but I'm blessed, man. God blessed me being in this position. I'm thankful for it.
Do you understand what the Top Golf visit? Do you think that was more about seeing how everyone interacts with, like leadership qualities or personalities, I guess, than it was football stuff?
I think it was just to be able to have fun. Honestly, I don't think they were really looking at how the quarterbacks interact with each other, because we all, there's only one of us that's gonna be there. So I think it was just honestly like, man, kind of switch it up from other how people do it, other top 30 visits, man. Be able to just go out there, have fun, and just be around people that you're in the process with, not really worry too much about, I have to remember this play or I have to, stuff like that. So I think it was more so just to have fun.
Was it just the quarterbacks there, or were there?
No, there was a lot of other people there. So
I guess that's what I meant, interacting with those.
Oh no, for sure, interacting with a lot of people. We're all on a visit: defensive players, offensive players, O linemen, tight ends, stuff like that. So just be able to go out there and have fun and really just, like you said, interact with people and see how people bond.
Before the season, what were you hearing about, how the NFL viewed you, where you might picture in the draft, and what did you feel like you needed to do last season to change that or improve that?
That's a good question. I don't really know how the NFL viewed me, how teams viewed me.
Okay.
I was out of my control, so I can only control what I control. So if I knew I wanted to be with a first round pick, I just had to have a season, that growth and show that I could grow in each area. So I proved I could do that. So now it's time to take the next step to my rookie year.
What is the team getting in you when they do call your name? What are they getting in Jayden Daniels?
A competitor, somebody very passionate in the game of football, somebody that loves to have fun, and a leader, somebody's a hard worker, somebody's going to go out there every day and grind, do whatever it takes to help the team win.
So there you go. You hear from Jayden Daniels, and to me, just being there, standing next to him, talking to him, listening to him, didn't really sound like he was too happy with the Washington questions, and he was just kind of getting through those. But when I started talking about AP and when I started talking about Arizona State and what it would be to be a Raider, his eyes lit up, right? He did get a big smile. And, there's reports out there. Diana Rossini said that his preference would be for him to either be a Raider or a Viking. He doesn't really want to go to Washington, but he'd be cool with going to Washington. And why wouldn't you? If they draft you number 2 overall, that's where you go. Right? You just do what you got to do. It's an awesome opportunity to be in the NFL, period. So just thought it would be good to hear from Jayden Daniels, whether the Raiders are able to get him or not. I know he was a really good dude, really personable. He seemed like he was, like I said, in a good place on Wednesday when I had an opportunity to catch up with them. So the final little nugget here in segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast, kind of news and notes all around the Raiders. Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network, who I didn't get a chance to catch up with on Wednesday. I did talk to Charles Davis and Joel Klatt, and you'll hear from Joel Klatt in segment number 2. He put out his final mock draft around Wednesday afternoon. Caleb Williams 1, Chicago. Jayden Daniels 2 to Washington. Drake May 3 to New England. J.J. McCarthy, he had going number 11 overall to the Vikings. Michael Penix, they're at 13 with the Raiders. And then Bo Nix to 22 to the Denver, who traded with the Eagles so they could draft Fuaga at 12. So he had all 6 quarterbacks going in the first round. Williams to the Chicago Bears, Daniels to the Commanders, May to the Patriots, McCarthy to the Vikings, Penix to the Raiders, Nix to the Broncos. So all the quarterbacks, according to Daniel Jeremiah, went in the first round. We'll see how accurate that is later on this evening. That's what I got for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Coming up segment number 2, we continue with the NFL draft theme. You'll hear from Joel Klatt from NFL Network as I got a chance to catch up with him on Wednesday. That's coming up next here on the Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about a couple great sponsors, including the title sponsor of the show, which is Monopoly Go. And look, I'm going to need y'all to listen up for this huge announcement. I've been tracking the leaderboards because I'm a very competitive dude. I do it every day, keeping my eye on the scores, putting all my heart into it, and I'm super pumped to announce I'm finally on top. No, I'm just not on the bottom. I'm higher than I was. You know, obviously, I'm talking about the hit mobile game Monopoly Go. You've heard of it. I know you have. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great mobile twist. It's on classic Monopoly. You can play anywhere, anytime. You explore hundreds of Monopoly boards, Vegas to Camelot to the moon, all while raking in a huge fortune. Charge rent on iconic properties like Monopoly did. Charge your friends rent on your iconic properties, or go after their Monopoly money by pulling bank heists and taking wrecking balls to their landmarks. Why wouldn't you like to do that? Sounds like a whole lot of fun, right? But a great part of it is the leaderboards. You can see who's a Monopoly tycoon and who's going to go bankrupt. I'm probably going to go bankrupt, but, you know, it is what it is. I'm going to try not to go bankrupt the fastest. Let's put it like that. So get yourself on the charts. Download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store and Google Play. I also want to tell you about FanDuel. It's playoff time. NBA, NHL, baseball's back in action. FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. It's just that simple. $150, win or lose. That's my kind of odds, right? Win or lose, and you're still going to get $150? Yeah, give me that every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Bet on everything from slap shots, home runs, slam dunks, everything you can bet. 3-pointers, all in the app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make your first bet an automatic win with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Went a little bit longer there in segment number 1, so we'll try to trim it down a little bit here in segment number 2. We'll just jump right into the conversation that was had on Wednesday at the Corner Ballpark, the Play 60 event that was going on with the draft prospects, the Special Olympics kids, and then also the NFL draft analysts like Joel Klatt. He was alongside his colleagues, Charles Davis, and of course, Daniel Jeremiah as well. So here's Joel Klatt. He starts off explaining why he originally mocked Michael Penix to the Dolphins, even though Tua Tagovailoa was already there. Here he is. Check it out.
When I made my first 2 mock drafts, to me, I looked at fit and just things that I thought would be exciting. Every week when I would see Michael Penix play, I would think of Mike McDaniels. And I would just be like, man, I would love to see those two. We have not seen a quarterback with the ability to throw the ball downfield as well. And I shouldn't say throw, pass the ball down the field. He passes with leverage. And so to me, this was just a total, like, man, I would love to see that. I think a lot of fans, think that means I don't like Tua or so on and so forth. That had nothing to do with it. It was just a pick that I thought would be interesting. And until there was definitive language of a pending contract, that's where I had him. I changed it, obviously, in my third mock. But, I mean, the Tuanons are real, man. They came out like killer bees.
But from a sheer schematic standpoint, would Penix be a better fit in that?
Listen, I think he would throw the ball down the field better than Tua. Okay? Now, some disagree with that. Fine. That's totally fine. Tua's quick release and hands are better in the intermediate RPO system that the Dolphins really utilize to be effective. There's no question about that. Tua's uniquely suited and built to succeed in that type of offense. because of that, his hands are so quick. He's like a point guard. I don't know if Penix could do that, but I kept thinking to myself, like, what would you want to see? I would want to see Michael Penix throw the ball to Tyreek Hill. Right?
And Jaylen Waddle.
And Jaylen Waddle, and with the creativity of those schematics. But as a better overall fit, probably not, because of Tua's ability. His hand speed is pretty remarkable.
Joel, for the Bengals, a lot of avenues for them. A lot of different mock drafts. A lot of people, Bowers, Newton's there as well. A lot of people think they're going to go receiver again. Where do you see is the best fit for them, or at least what they maybe need the most, or where they'll go?
I'd love to see Joe Burrow get a tight end like Brock Bowers. I really would. The tight end has been a little devalued. I don't love that. Here's the reason: is that if you look at the last 8 Super Bowl winners, their best offensive pass catching threat was a middle of the field operator. I believe to win the Super Bowl, you have to have somebody that can own the middle of the field. It helps you in the red zone. It helps you on third down. It helps you with matchups. It can create advantages from a ratio aspect that allow you to still run the football. That's why I love tight ends, okay? So Bowers is one of those guys. By the way, those last 8 years we've had Gronk, Cooper Kupp, and Travis Kelce. Those are the guys. What we don't generally see, no one wants to talk about this, but what we don't generally see is someone win the Super Bowl because their best offensive threat is a wide receiver. We don't generally see that. So the Bengals, they've been to the AFC Championship game. If Burrow stays healthy, you would imagine that they would be back into that same echelon of teams just because of how good he is. They need someone to own the middle of the field. I think Brock Bowers would be that guy.
You talked about offensive, about tackles earlier. What about Joe Hall?
Yeah.
Where he goes, where you think he fits best?
Probably Tennessee. Love Joe. Almost every team I've talked to, he's their number one offensive lineman on the board. He's going to go in the top 10. I firmly believe that he's the type of guy that's going to have a 10, 12, 13, hopefully longer year career in the National Football League. I believe he's going to be a Pro Bowl style player, potentially an All-Pro. His lineage, his strength, his size, the fact that he's only going to get better. Alt's a fabulous player, and I think Tennessee's probably the spot.
When you look at the guy on the other side of him, Blake Fisher, obviously he's a second, third round guy. And his running back, Audric Estime, I know it's kind of hard to tell where those guys go, but where do you see those guys potentially landing? Where do they fit?
It's so hard. It's so hard. You start looking at teams with offensive line needs or running back needs. It's even harder with running back because of a need. Audric Estime, let's start with him. If Dallas doesn't get a running back early, if they don't get one of their top few guys, would they take him later in the draft? That's a potential. And then from a Blake perspective, you got a bunch of teams that need offensive linemen. I would expect Blake to probably go in the second round, but again, that's very difficult. As far as the location, that's almost impossible.
When you look at picks 1 and 9, the Bears, everybody's saying Caleb first, but how do they compliment him the best in this round?
Two trains of thought. Do you protect him or do you get him a wide receiver? Right? That's the two trains of thought. Here's the best possible scenario is that they're going to have the opportunity to select really good players at either of those positions, which I believe that they'll have that opportunity. Fuaga is going to probably be available, the tackle from Oregon State. J.C. Latham from Alabama probably going to be available. Olu Fashanu from Penn State probably going to be available. So who's your best guy outside of Joe Alt? Now, by the way, if somehow Alt fell to them at 9, take him, absolutely. If somehow Rome Odunze falls to you at 9, you take him. Those are the two that I would start with. Is if those two get to 9, then you take them. I don't think either of those will be available, which then to me means that I think you would go offensive line, because there's a touch of a drop after the third wide receiver. The top 3 wide receivers in this draft, I have them all as top 5, 6 players overall in the draft. And once you get past Neighbors and Rome Odunze, I think you reach a little bit to get a wide receiver. So if those 3 guys are gone, you go offensive line.
Detroit holding the draft for the very first time.
Yeah.
What are your early impressions of the city and just the football fandom here?
So little known fact, but I was a Lion in 2006 for a brief period in training camp. So I got familiar with this city, obviously, back then, and then now I feel like I fly into Detroit to do Michigan games constantly, right? I've done 16 Michigan games in the last 3 seasons. So part of me feels like very at home in Michigan. But this is really great for this city and this fan base. I will say, even when I was here, like I said, in 2006, and only for a brief time, but even within that locker room, I would remember John Kitna was the quarterback, and he and I used to talk, and Josh McCown and Dan Orlovsky, that was our quarterback room in that camp. And we always used to talk about how unbelievable a fan base this was, because they had not had any success in the recent past, and yet we all knew and could feel the support that they were desperate to give. So to have an event like this, in particular on the heels of the year that they just had, I think is incredibly special.
And talking about the year that they had last year, I mean, how much did that Detroit pride really resonate across the NFL?
Yeah.
Could you just feel it?
I think you could feel it. And in a lot of ways, I think they became a sentimental favorite amongst just football fans. I think football fans in general resonate to the authenticity of Dan Campbell. And obviously, Hard Knocks helped that, right? And you see that. I think people resonated with the underdog story of a quarterback that was shipped off of a team and kind of had to find his way and is now having success. I think fans resonate with this story of an organization, and maybe even more broadly speaking, a town that is rebuilding itself and rebranding itself and coming back. And I think people love that. I think people really love that.
You mentioned Michael Penix, and what you would like to see Michael Penix, throwing balls to Tyreek Hill. What about in Las Vegas? How do you see Michael Penix fitting in?
So Vegas is a spot that I could see Penix fitting perfectly in terms of the draft, how everything lays out. That pick, that's going to be an interesting pick. Now, Denver selecting just ahead of them. Right. I'd be very fascinated to see what Denver evaluates with the quarterbacks, although this Zach Wilson trade has kind of thrown everything into flux. Penix feels like a Raider in a lot of ways. I love, just because, you think about the old Raiders and the Al Davis Raiders throwing it down the field, man. That's what they did. No one throws it down the field better than Michael Penix. I would love to see that.
What do you think about Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce, how they're going to kind of attack this draft together?
Tom was really successful, and you look at the picks that he made with the Chargers, and they were successful, and he built something there. I think that if they just employ that type of strategy, that they're going to continue to build and be formidable. But they do have to solidify the quarterback position. In that division, whether we're talking about Denver or whether we're talking about Las Vegas, it's the same thing. You got Patrick Mahomes there. So you're either going to try to compete or you're trying to compete for a wild card. Right. And so they've got to figure out that quarterback spot, at least in my mind.
So good stuff. Started off talking Michael Penix, closed things out talking Michael Penix. And I just like to hear draft talk. I like to hear what these analysts are thinking about these different players, why they've mocked them to certain spots. A lot of people think that it's just folks just grabbing stuff and throwing it against the wall and hoping it sticks. It's not. It really comes from a place of something, right? And Joel Klatt covers a lot of college football. He's on the call for a lot of games. Matter of fact, did a lot of Michigan games. That was one of the things that he said right there. I've done a lot of Michigan games, feel like I'm in the city all the time. But he's one of those guys that, he knows what he sees. And I could appreciate being able to hear from those guys. And it gives you a little bit of knowledge. I mean, hell, who knows? Maybe one of the guys he brought up is one of the guys that the Raiders will select. And maybe it gives you a little bit more intel onto who that guy is and what he brings to the table. So that's what I got for segment number 2, a little insight from Joel Klatt from the NFL Network, part of the Play 60 event at the Corner Ballpark, downtown Detroit on Wednesday. Coming up in segment number 3, got to meet some of the prospects. You already heard from Jayden Daniels. I also caught up with Rome Odunze and Terrion Arnold. You hear from both of those guys coming up in segment number 3 as we close things out on today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find qualified professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And look, LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're probably looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and even quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. What you need to do right now is post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to jump into some of the conversations that was had with the prospects that were at the Play 60 event. You heard from Jayden Daniels earlier today, earlier in this segment, I should say, segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. We're talking all things Raiders in that segment, but also got an opportunity to catch up with Terrion Arnold. Really was impressed with what he had to say, and also Rome Odunze, who was cooler than the other side of the pillow. Both guys really cool dudes, but everybody was in attendance. I was hoping that I was going to be able to get a lot more guys, but it was really cold. It was really kind of spread out. And I think a lot of these guys decided, I'm going to hang out here and talk to these guys for a few minutes, but not really as long as maybe I was supposed to be out there. But I'm not mad at that because it was so cold. I totally get it. So Malik Neighbors was out there, Darius Robinson, Brian Thomas Jr., Dallas Turner, Caleb Williams, Quinyon Mitchell, Drake May, Leatu Latu, J.C. Latham, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jayden Daniels, and Terrion Arnold. So since I selected Terrion Arnold, number 13 overall in the Locked On mock draft, let's go ahead and hear from my cornerback one. He's not everybody's, man. Everyone got mad when I was saying how much more I liked him than Quinyon Mitchell, and it's not that much. I just happen to like Terrion Arnold just a little bit more, but man, I really ruffled some feathers when I said that. But hey, that was my option. I tell it like it's like Kool-Aid. Some people like certain flavors, some like others. I happen to like what Terrion Arnold brings to the table. So here he is off top. He's being asked about advice about the whole draft process.
What's the best advice you received from somebody about the draft, and especially Nick Saban as well?
The best advice I've seen is just expect the unexpected. And then my advice from Coach Saban, it would just be yourself.
What's the self-description of Terrion Arnold, self-scouting report?
He's a quarterback and a cornerback. The guy's a leader. He's a great teammate, and he has class. And the guy really cares. Like, whatever organization that Terrion is going to, they're going to get a great guy, a great player, but an even better person. Somebody that's going to come in and impact the organization on and off the field.
Terrion, what have you learned about playing defensive back at Alabama and heard about playing defensive back in the NFL?
Playing defensive back at Alabama, I mean, you're going to get everyone's best. So you learn how to prepare as if you're going against an NFL caliber wide receiver, Saturday in, Saturday out. And then as far as going to the NFL, man, preparing myself, I just been preparing myself to go in there and make an immediate impact.
Mm-hmm. What would you like to say to the University of Alabama fans?
To the fans, I would like to say thank you for supporting me throughout this journey. Bryant-Denny Stadium, man, it's an electric place. We have the best fans in all of college, and let a naysayer know.
Tell me about your visit to the Lions.
My visit to the Lions, it was great. I would say when I was there, I mean, just as far as going over schemes, being around the coaching staff, they have a very great team developing. I mean, obviously they were just on the borderline of making it to the Super Bowl, and they're trying to get back to that.
They obviously would likely they have to trade up to get you. I mean, did they talk about that? Did you talk about that with them? What do they say about that prospect, I guess?
Classified information.
What have you thought about this whole process?
I would say Alabama did a great job of preparing me for it, and I'm taking it in, and as they would say, just taking it one day at a time.
What was your interactions like with Coach Antonio Pierce when you met with him, even at the Combine and your pro day?
My interactions with Coach Pierce, we were just talking about my 40. He was like, "Are you going to run it again?" I was like, "Yes." And I was just telling him, as far as like my mindset goes, I'm a ball hawk, and I'm always trying to get that ball, man. You know, Coach Pierce, he's a great guy, and obviously being a coach in the NFL is not an easy road. And he does a great job of doing that.
He said he needs an alpha dog cornerback. What does it mean to be an alpha dog cornerback?
Oh, man, it's one of those guys who you're going to have that same mentality when you line up against anybody. Obviously, the guys are looking at you. So when you go in there, like when you get in there and get that pregame speech, you can't get a pregame speech to the guys and then go out there and get cooked. And, I mean, you got to be able to take that heat as far as even, like, playing corner at Alabama. Like, when you go out there and you line up, you know, okay, if I do this to this Alabama cornerback, man, my draft stock going to skyrocket. And it's my job to say, hey, you know who I am, you know what I'm about, and this ain't going to fly.
You, Terrion, have you watched much tape on Quinyon? I mean, just any thoughts on the other, top cornerback in the class, and just kind of what you...
No, I haven't really watched much tape, but just as far as developing a relationship with him, Quinyon, man, he's a great guy. He's kind of quiet, which we're the opposite of each other, but it's like night and day. And those guys, like, we'll train together during the off season and things like that. But I mean, he's a great dude to be around.
I asked this to a couple of the quarterbacks. A lot of people look at the quarterback class, and that kind of defines the draft 10 years from now. There's some pretty good defensive players too.
Oh, it is.
What do you think of this? 10 years from now, what do you think we'll be looking back on this class saying about this draft?
This is one of the great draft classes of all time. I mean, we have a lot of talent in this class, and a lot of guys who I think will be future All-Pros.
And you played against Jayden, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just some thoughts on maybe what he can do.
He's electric. Jayden, he's fun to watch and he's fun to go against, and he has a great personality, man. Like Jayden, he really is I would say he's a clown, man. Like the guy is a funny dude.
You told the story about when you were benched and you weren't going to let that happen again. Mm-hmm. How much does that play in your head each and every day?
Oh, it drives me. I always say it's my Michael Jordan moment. It's going to drive me to that gold jacket.
Right.
And I say that redundantly, repetitively, but I really mean it when I say it.
Tell me that story. I mean, would you go home and tell yourself, like, this is never happening again?
No, I went home and I got to work. We had 6:30 workouts. I was showing out the workouts at 4:30, just getting it in. And I would say, man, I kept that mentality and kept it going.
What drives you? What gets that burn in your belly?
Competing, man. I really love competing, man.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who I'm going against, what I'm up against. You can tell me to go out there and go out that track over there, man. I'm going to go out there and do it. That's just how I am.
24 hours out now from your life changing, achieving a goal that probably had as a little kid. What's going through your mind? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great, man. And, I'm expecting the unexpected, calm and steady, even kill mindset. But I'm ready, man. I'm ready to get to whatever organization selects me, and I'm ready to get to work.
How hard is that knowing or not knowing where you're going to be headed to? And that's such a big part of life, is going to a new city. And how hard is it not knowing?
I would say it's not that hard, because in life you expect the unexpected. Almost like playing cornerback. You don't know when the ball is going to come to you, but when it comes, you better be ready. So that's how I am.
I just love what he says. I love the confidence. I love the alpha dog mentality. I think that's a guy that would fit in the Raiders locker room really well. And I think he brings a lot of dog to that secondary. They might not go that direction. They might go Quinyon Mitchell. Again, it's so funny. We're like splitting hairs, right? I know that Mitchell is a really good player. He could even be a little bit better. He's a little quiet, right? And I don't know if that's the kind of dude that Antonio Pierce is looking for. So when I made the selection of Terrion Arnold and I rolled with them, a lot of that had to do with the fit with Antonio Pierce as well. But man, folks, we're not on Raider Nation Radio 920, especially. We're not trying to hear that, but it's all good. Not a worry at all. Finally, want you to hear from wide receiver Rome Odunze. I know wide receiver is not a big need for the Raiders. I doubt that they would select him, number 13 overall. I doubt he'd be there at number 13. He's probably going to go the latest, number 9, to the Chicago Bears. But, he's a Las Vegas guy. So why not? Why not talk to him? He's a hell of a player as well. So here he is, starting off being asked about where he thinks he's going to be going.
I don't know, man. I got no clue. I got no expectations. I just hoping, my family and everybody just enjoys the moment and, is happy to be here and grateful for it. Yeah.
Is it cool to be around the other receivers?
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah. It's great to be around, elite prospects and elite dudes, and they're all great people as well. So to be around them, to be able to know them and build a relationship is awesome.
What has this whole process been like, from the national championship game to, building up throughout the draft process and to where you are right now?
Oh, it's been amazing. I mean, it's been a lot, from transition. It's like different phases, different parts of it, but it's all been a blessing, and I take it as that. So I've been super blessed to go through it, and I'm just grateful for sure.
How does an event like this kind of help calm the nerves a little bit as you guys are getting set for tomorrow?
Oh, for me, I mean, I don't know if I have any nerves in the first place. Honestly, I'm really just excited to go to a team and be a part of a team. So for me, it's not many nerves. Maybe my family, they get to hopefully go to dinner tonight and cool down a little bit, because they're probably on edge a little bit. But I'm cool.
Describe what type of player you are in 3 words.
In 3 words? Oh my gosh, 3 words? Versatile, deliberate, detailed.
Who was the first jersey that you got as a child?
Brian Urlacher. My auntie gave it to me, I think, when I came out here to see the Chicago Air Show. So, or on this side of the country when I went to see the Chicago Air Show. I think Brian Urlacher, yeah.
Okay.
A lot of people talk about how all your teammates at Washington are going to be great in the NFL. Any of the guys that you want to shout out here?
Oh, man, all of them, man. Shout out to my other receivers, of course, JP, Jalen. Shout out Mike, Troy, Roger, Dylan. man, defensive side, Zion. Shout out to Latu, who was on UW for a little bit. Man, who else is? I can't even remember who else is continuing to come out. Braylon. Shout out Braylon. Yeah, man, shout out to all my guys. I think they're all going to be special. I think we're built for it.
Can you give us a preview of what you're wearing around? How much time you spent thinking about it or getting help with it?
I didn't spend too much time. It's very simple. I think it's just simple, but something that has a little flair, has a little style to it. So hopefully y'all like it. Hopefully I'm up there with some of the best dressed. I know some of these boys got big personalities, probably going to wear something crazy, but we'll see.
Did you get it custom designed? Who's your designer?
I'm with Hugo Boss, so they hooked me up with a suit, but I don't know if it's any custom. It's tailored and everything, but it's nice.
You talked about some of those.
What message do you have for your hometown fans will be watching you and cheering you on?
Oh, from Vegas? Oh, shout out to y'all, man. Thank you. I appreciate all the love and support. Whatever city I do go to, that'll be my second city, but Vegas is always home now. Y'all know that. So, thank you, man. Appreciate y'all.
You talked about Michael Penix and some of the great throws he's made. You made some catches. What goes into when the ball's in the air? What are you thinking?
Oh, I'm thinking the ball is mine, regardless of what happened on the route or, the release or the other parts of a wide receiver. At the end of the day, when the ball is in the air, all that matters is you come down with it. So I think that's my biggest mindset when the ball's in the air.
Who are some wide receivers that you looked up to maybe coming up that you kind of made your game afterwards?
Julio Jones, Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams, I think is with a trio that I watch a lot. I'll probably say them. They all have different assets to their game that I like to watch, but they're tremendous players.
Rome, both the Jets and the Giants have top 10 picks. They both need wide receivers. How would you feel about playing in New York?
I think it'd be amazing. The Big Apple. It's a tremendous city. They're both in New Jersey, so I don't know how much I'll be in New York, but it's very close. So hopefully be able to enjoy the city, enjoy the very passionate fan base that they have out there. But it'd be amazing.
How would you feel about catching passes from Aaron Rodgers?
Oh, that'd be awesome. I mean, he's one of the GOATs up there for sure. One of the best to ever do it. So I'd love to be able to pick his mind, ask him how he made it so long in this league and, his mindset to continue to keep going even after his, injury. So that'd be awesome.
How do you think your meeting with the Jets went?
I think it went well. I really love their facility. I love, their coach, Sean, their head coach, their GM, as well as their offense coordinator. All good people, and the staff there seem like they're hungry, determined, and, ready to go win.
I know that a wide receiver is not a big need in Las Vegas, but if you were to end up in Vegas, in your hometown, how would that feel for you?
Oh, that'd be amazing. I mean, for me, if I had to pick, it'd be, the number one pick to the Las Vegas Raiders. That would be awesome. My hometown. I'll go stay with my mom, and be next to Devontae Adams, and that'd be awesome. But yeah, who knows how it'll end up, but to be a Raider, that'd be a tremendous thing for sure.
What are your thoughts about potentially heading to the Bears?
I think it'd be awesome. I mean, Chicago's a tremendous city. I think, they got good things rolling with Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. If I add myself to that room, I think we could do pretty special things. I mean, I think they'll probably go get Caleb at number one. Who knows? It's all speculation, right? But I think they're in good hands, and I think they're on the trend going upwards.
So there it was right there. Rome Odunze, super cool. Right, just hey man, I don't really have no nerves. I'm good. He was. That's how he was. He was out there. He was relaxed. He was chill. He was having a good time. He did not seem like he was uptight at all. He was just as cool as it gets. And you heard him say, man, I'm more worried about my family being more uptight than I am. He's good to go. So hope all the best for Rome Odunze, a hell of a wide receiver. Had a great career there at Washington. Obviously, the national championship game didn't go their way. But, man, just to go ahead and have the season that he had and put up the performance that he did at Washington, and now he's going to be rewarded by being a top 10 pick, most likely, coming up later this evening. But that's going to do it. Raider Nation, we made it to the first round, right? Excited about that. Even more excited to come back and talk about what the Raiders did. Hopefully, whoever they select is one of the 13 guys that's in the green room. If he is, then you'll hear from him on tomorrow's show. If not, you'll hear about him on tomorrow's show. We'll talk about what the Raiders did and who's left, what they can do on day 2 as round 2 and round 3 get underway. And then, of course, 4, 5, 6, and 7 will go on Saturday. So until tomorrow, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.